Part 35. Fantasy, Me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 341. Zixuanja. In the main hall of Yugzu Palace, everyone's expressions froze. They thought about countless possibilities. But I didn't expect that the direction of the earthly immortal realm would be towards the purple Xian realm. What the hell is this? Could it be that in the Zixuan realm, there is an immortal who takes action to pull the earthly immortal realm over? This is unbelievable. There is no such person in the earthly immortal realm. The purple Xian realm is a lower realm. How can it be so virtuous and capable with such a person standing in charge? Master, dear old man, could it be that your perception is wrong? The middle-aged man wearing a jade crown said suspiciously. Junior brother, are you questioning master? The headmaster of Yugzu Palace, his eyes narrowed, and he spoke calmly. No, the middle-aged man quickly handed over his hand, shook his head slightly, and said softly, it's not that the junior brother doesn't trust the master, but this result is a bit unbelievable. Not only him, but everyone in the hall had a look of disbelief on their faces. The master is a supreme true immortal, so he cannot make mistakes. After the headmaster of Yugzu Palace said something, he stopped talking. The entire hall fell into silence. After a long time, boom, there was a loud noise, and the entire earthly immortal world was shaking. All the creatures had panic expressions on their faces, not knowing what had happened. But a group of powerful creatures, as if they had noticed something, rose into the sky one after another and flew to the edge of the universe. Desolation. The edge of the originally empty world. I don't know when. A huge gap opened. Looking through the gap, looking to the outside world, is boundless chaos, and in the chaos, there is a vast world. Quick zoom. This is Zixuanja. A man who looked like a god walked out of the void, bathed in the divine fire, and released earth-shattering power with every movement of his hands and feet. Wrong. This is both Zixuan realm and not Zixuan realm. A faint voice came. A supreme figure appeared, standing in the sky, with a vague figure, and the laws of the great Dao hanging down from his body. His words were spoken, and even the heaven and earth were affected. It was as if the words were followed by the law. As soon as he appeared, terrifying fluctuations surged up into the sky, the whole field collapsed, the void quickly cracked, and spread out all of a sudden, the sky collapsed and the earth shattered. This world is different from the previous Zixuan realm. It seems that the level of the world has changed. Now it is not much different from the earthly immortal realm. It seems that the two worlds have merged into one. Someone lost their voice. In the chaos of the earthly immortal realm, it drove the wind and thunder in the sky, splitting the chaos, and quickly rushed towards the Zixuan realm. As the distance got closer and closer, even the emperor could sense the aura of the Zixuan realm. Two worlds merged into one. A supreme figure, standing in the void, suppressed the heaven and the earth. He looked at the Zixuan realm, the corners of his mouth opened slightly, and his voice was indifferent. I seem to understand a little bit what the purpose of that terrifying figure in the dark is. Is this the fusion of all realms? What a grand gesture! Zixuan realm. The sky is cracked, and chaos and mist are surging. The sky is like a huge funnel, constantly rotating and rumbling, with black lightning intertwining, and thousands of laws emerging. There are also the cries of all living beings. Even if he knew that this kind of thing had happened once before in the Tianyuan world, when it was his turn, the shock was still subversive. The sight was too terrifying. As if the end of the world is coming, black lightning and bloody thunder are intertwined with each other, and the torrential rain is rolling down, and the whole world seems to be submerged. The heaven and earth trembled, and the earth shook. Even the Zixuan realm is boundless, but now the billions of stars are beginning to tremble, as if they will completely collapse in the next second. A terrifying and inexplicable aura is filling the air, stirring up, breaking through the chaos for billions of miles, reaching from far away, sweeping across the sky and the earth. It is a supreme breath. It can also be called the power of a true immortal. Although the Earth Immortal realm has not yet been completely integrated, the supreme immortals in the Earth Immortal realm have begun to spy on the Zi-Xian realm, and they do not hide their aura. Just like that, his divine thoughts swept through every corner of Zixuan realm. This is contempt. It is even more of a condescending and indifferent attitude towards ordinary ants. In their view, there is nothing they can be afraid of in the Zixuan realm. Even if the divine sense sweeps through the forbidden areas of all forces, or some restricted areas, so what? Who dares to resist the will of a supreme immortal? Hateful. In an ancient star field, the Tai Emperor stood tall, his imperial robes flying. He stretched out one hand, holding the Emperor's seal, emitting a terrifying atmosphere that crushed the sky. Above the Emperor's seal, a monstrous brilliance bloomed, filled the starry sky for hundreds of millions of miles. All the creatures in the entire area ruled by Emperor Tai immediately fell to their knees, their bodies trembling, and they could not help but tremble. Are you so blatantly deceiving me that there is no one in Zixuan realm? The Emperor of Tai roared angrily. A burst of energy and blood rushed up into the night, like a wolf smoke, penetrating the sky and piercing countless stars. Like a volcanic eruption, it submerged countless star fields. Pass on my order, all the people in the dynasty are preparing for war. If there are any creatures from the earthly and immortal world who dare to invade our territory, there is no need to report them, they will all be killed. The Emperor Tai spoke. The voice was loud in the sky, stirring up the wind and thunder in the sky. He knew that there were supreme beings in the immortal world, but this was not the time to give in. He was a great emperor. If he faced a strong enemy, he would be the first to be timid. Not to mention the people in his territory. Moreover, he is walking the path of the God Emperor. As the God Emperor, he must never surrender to others. Once he surrenders, his path will also. That's it. Please obey the order of the God Emperor. In the heavenly palace, mighty voices came from every corner. Countless soldiers, holding spears and cold murderous intent, rushed in all directions. They were driving chariots, riding horses, or riding divine boats. All of a sudden, under the command of Emperor Tai, all the secrets are revealed. Earthly immortal realm, Master Tianji is trying to destroy the Zixuan realm. There are also people sighing in other places. At this time, how did the Earth immortal world come to be? Just pick up a cultivator and you can say the 4 words Tianji building master without thinking. After all, this is not a secret. The Earth immortal world, it's not the burial emperor. The gap between a person and a world is still very obvious. At this time, the earthly immortal world comes over. Are they going to hit it with their heads? Thinking about it with your toes, you know that they can't beat it at all. Blood Oath Rock, from today onwards, you will not be able to escape from the world. On a bloody ancient mountain, there was an old woman, with her hands behind her back, looking at the end of the sky, looking at the rumbling terrifying world, and felt a tremor in her heart. She was also a great emperor, but she sensed that supreme aura, but she couldn't think of any resistance. Therefore, she immediately chose to avoid disaster. When the world would be peaceful, when the Blood Oath Rock would come out again, anyway, she was the great emperor. At any time, in any era, she would not being underestimated. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 342. Immortal Breath. Zixuan Realm. The universe is deserted. The big dead stars float in the starry sky, exuding a desolate and lonely atmosphere. In an area that was rarely inhabited in the past, every star is trembling today, as if a catastrophe is imminent, and an aura of destruction is spreading. On a star, there is a figure, carrying a heavenly sword on his back, his hair hanging down like a waterfall, his ancient face, very cold, wearing a grey robe, fluttering in the wind. He stood on the stars, looking at the immortal world in the distance, his eyes shining brightly. This person is the Emperor Tiankai of the earthly immortal realm. He stands here, silently, looking at the direction in which the earthly immortal realm is rushing, his face expressionless, and he doesn't know what he is thinking in his heart. Not long after Emperor Tiankai appeared, Emperor Mon and several emperors who came out of the restricted area stepped over in the void, each of them had solemn expressions. At first no one spoke. They all understand that Zhixian realm is at a critical moment of life and death. Blood Oath Rock is closed. On the stars. After a long time, there was a sound of faint old voice, "This is Emperor Beluo. His body is stooped and he is leaning on a cane, as if he is about to die. He does not have the power of the great emperor, but is filled with this twilight energy, and seems to fall down at any time. I have met Senior Beluo." The Emperor Tiankai handed over his hand. His heart was extremely heavy. In the critical moment of the Zixuan realm, not every emperor wants to resist. After hundreds of millions of years of cultivation, everyone's ultimate goal is to live forever. If you can live, you will not be able to resist. People are willing to die. Right now, confrontation with the earthly immortal realm, in everyone's eyes, is a matter of death or life. There is no doubt that Blood Oath Rock, as a restricted area in the Zixuan realm, chose to be a tortoise at this time and planned to close the door. If you don't come out, you can avoid this disaster. At this time, there is no need for too much etiquette. The great Emperor Beluo waved his hand slightly. He raised his head, his white hair fluttering, and two sharp eyes shot out from his cloudy eyes, piercing through the chaos. He landed on the earthly immortal world. The earthly immortal realm came too fast. Senior Tianji Building Master, you never gave me any chance to breathe in the Zixuan realm. If you had given me 10,000 years, I will definitely become an immortal in this life. The old words of Emperor Beluo sounded, with a bit of helplessness in his voice, but also mixed with a bit of fighting spirit. No one dared to refute his words. Before the rise of Emperor Baili and Emperor Yunai, he had always been the one in front of him. The old man, who suppressed the era, his combat power surpassed his peers. Even the two emperors on the emperor list would not be too arrogant in front of the great Emperor Beluo. With his background, in 10,000 years, he would still be able to. It is really possible to become an immortal. After all, his strength is there. In the past, he did not become an immortal because the time was not there and the world level did not allow it. Now that the world level allows it, he still needs some preparations to break through. But the master of Tianji did not give him. They have time to prepare. They don't dare to have any dissatisfaction with the master of Tianji. Those people do things based on their own opinions. Why should they care about what they think? Let me ask. How many of the emperors present care about the creatures under the quasi-emperor? Thoughts? But Emperor Mon was dressed in black robes, with a deep voice and vicissitudes in his eyes. He spoke slowly. Senior Beluo is not the supreme true immortal after all, and there is not even an immortal in the Zixuan realm. He has no chance of winning against the earthly immortal realm. Good. Some other great emperors spoke up and said, this time, if the earthly immortal realm comes over, those who resist will probably die. The earthly immortal world is coming with great momentum, who can resist it? The emperor, who was born with an inverse angle, crossed his arms around his chest. His body was burly, like a huge mountain, suppressing the starry sky. His blood energy was surging like Wang Yang. He has always had a very high self-esteem. Even Emperor Baili and Emperor Nirvana also dared to provoke. But now, in this form, his arrogance has also been extinguished. As soon as he finished speaking, there were 3 more figures in the void, walking quickly across the endless star field. Each one from the great emperors walked out of the restricted area. Normally, they had never been born in the restricted area. Today, they chose to step into the wilderness of the universe. Every great emperor had chaos energy on his body, and his figure was blurry. After they arrived, they met Emperor Mon. The others stood side by side, without saying a word, silently looking in the direction of the immortal world. In the boundless chaos, the vast fluctuations became more and more intense. It was the pressure of a huge world. Before it fell, the heaven and earth exploded, and a great disaster occurred. Collapse. A huge palm, boundless. Any living being is as small as dust compared to that palm. Even the stars are eclipsed at this moment. That palm, holding the earthly fairy world, rushes in the chaos, exuding terrifying power. It's the senior owner of Tianji. Emperor Mon spoke. He had been to Tianji Tower before and had some understanding of the aura of the owner of Tianji Tower. When he saw this palm, he no longer had any doubts. It directly affirmed the thoughts in my heart. Looking at the Tianyuan realm and the Zixuan realm, the only one who can achieve this step is the senior Tianji building master. Disaster is coming. A great emperor said. At this time, in the earthly immortal world, the mountains, rivers, mountains, sun, moon, and stars are clearly visible. You can even see terrifying figures standing in the divine light all over the sky. Those characters are all full of energy. Xue Chongxiao, with an indifferent expression on his face, looked down at the Zixuan realm. Each one of them was not weaker than the great sage, and the slightly stronger ones even reached the level of quasi-emperor, or even the great emperor. These figures alone could already overwhelm them. All the races in the Zixuan realm are almost out of breath. However, everyone present knows that these characters who appear are not the entire background of the earthly immortal realm, but are just the tip of the iceberg. When the world is completely integrated, then at that time, the foundation of the earthly immortal realm will completely explode. Once the foundation breaks out, the impact on the purple mysterious realm will be devastating. Because everyone knows that people who are not my race will have different minds. And the creatures in the earthly immortal world call themselves immortals. How can they put other ethnic groups in their eyes? If they don't obey, they may be destroyed. Right now, our only chance may be Emperor Bai Li and Emperor Yunai. Emperor Mon spoke. His face was serious. On the emperor list, the 2 great emperors of Zixuan realm are undoubtedly very close to becoming immortals. At this time, they went to Tianji Tower to buy the opportunity to become immortals. Maybe can save the purple Xian realm. Senior Tianji building master, since he has merged several worlds, he should have anticipated this situation. As a senior, it is unlikely that he will leave the Zixuan world to a dead end. Emperor Biluo muttered. Maybe. Bai Li and Yunai are the senior posters, the glimmer of hope left to the Zixuan realm. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 343. Tianyuan World. Outside the Wang City. 2 terrifying figures gathered all their auras and stood in the void. These 2 people were Emperor Yunai and Emperor Bai Li. They looked towards the direction of Zixuan realm. Their expressions were very solemn, endless brilliance bloomed in their eyes, and the world-destroying scene of the galaxy rewinding was revealed. The blood demon realm on the front foot has just merged into the Tianyuan realm. The fairy world appears on the back foot. The owner of Tianji was so fast that no one could react. The original plan of the 2 of them had to be adjusted now. Those who come to the immortal world are not good. Emperor Yunai put his hands behind his back. After taking a look at Zixuan realm, he turned and walked towards Dawang city. As he walked, he said, "You and I don't have much time. At the time of return, at night, the possibility of the Zhixian realm's destruction will increase. Become immortal, imminent." Emperor Bai Li nodded. "This is the plan for now. Only when a supreme true immortal comes out can the crisis in Zixuan realm be solved. Other means are of little effect. As for the senior master of Tianji building to take action, the possibility is too low. The previous zombie emperor wanted to destroy the world before leading to the master of Tianji. How could the current Earth immortal world be so stupid as to destroy the world? Their own world has been integrated. Isn't it more beneficial to control the world than to destroy the world?" In front of the Tianji building, the two stood side by side, looked up at the list above their heads, and stepped into the Tianji building at the same time. "Junior Bai Li, I have met Senior Tianji Lozhu. Junior Yunai has met Senior Tianji Lozhu." The two great emperors bowed their hands and saluted as soon as they came in. Their attitude was very respectful. Even if they were ranked on the emperor list, they still did not dare to be presumptuous. After all, the emperor list was all ranked by the master of Tianji. They just got a little bit of it. It's just the light on the list. Li Yun was dressed in a green robe, with a tall figure and an outstanding temperament. He was sitting on a chair. In front of him, there was a black jade table with 2 cups of tea on it, still steaming. It seemed as if he had been married for a long time. He seemed ready. After hearing what the two people said, Li Yun pointed to the opposite side and said casually, "Sit first." "Thank you, senior." The two people bowed their hands and bowed slightly. They only sat half a chair, and their bodies were as straight as javelins. "Drink tea." Li Yun didn't hurry. He picked up the teacup, gestured, put it to his mouth and took a sip. Well. Emperor Yunai saw this scene. A trace of anxiety flashed across his face. The Zixuan realm is now in danger, but the senior Tianji building master in front of him is neither hasty nor slow, and his every move is calm and calm. As if everything is indifferent. The masters of the Tianji Tower can sit back and watch the destruction of the purple mystic realm, but they cannot just watch everything happen and remain indifferent. "Senior." Emperor Yuni spoke. "The words are not finished yet. Beside." Emperor Bai Li took the lead, picked up the teacup, and gestured to Yunai. After taking a sip of tea, a look of admiration flashed across his face. The senior poster's tea is indeed extraordinary and contains Taoist charm. Just one sip is enough to save 10,000 years of hard work. Its value is comparable to that of fairy tea. It is truly an honor for this junior. Emperor Yunai has no choice but to do as he is told. Ah! Li Yun raised his head, scanned the two people's faces one by one, and said slowly, "It has been 1,000,000 years since he became an emperor, and he is only one step away from becoming an immortal, but he has such a character. Tisk tisk. Senior, I." Emperor Yuni was embarrassed. He's not stupid. The meaning of these words is very obvious, that is, the owner of Tianji is beating him. Senior poster, don't be surprised. Fellow Daoist Yunai is also worried that the hundreds of millions of creatures in the Zixuan realm are too eager. After all, the Zixuan realm is the hometown of the two juniors, and they cannot sit idly by and ignore it. Emperor Bai Li handed over his hand. Although he didn't quite like this person who was ranked one lower than himself, but now that the enemy is facing a big enemy, it is best not to cause trouble. Yunai offended Tianji alone. Postmaster, it's nothing. But if this bad feeling is implicated in the Zixuan realm, then the gain outweighs the loss. No problem. Li Yun waved his hand, gestured to the door, and said casually, "The door is right there. If you are worried about the Zixuan realm, you can leave the Tianji Tower at any time. But with the strength of the two of you, although Zixuanji can be sustained for a while, the outcome will still not change. This Emperor Bai Li and Emperor Yunai looked at each other. At this point, they are clear. The strength of the Earth Immortal realm is so strong that even without the Supreme Immortal taking action, they can be killed by just relying on the number of great emperors. The gap between the world levels is not just at the level of true immortal, but there is a huge gap at every level. The number of great emperors that the earthly immortal realm can produce is enough to crush the combined efforts of the Zixuan realm and Tianyuan realm. Senior, now the Zixuan realm has long been integrated with the Tianyuan realm, and the creatures in the two realms are indistinguishable from each other. Please have mercy on the billions of creatures in the Zixuan realm. Show a way out for all the clans in the Zixuan realm. Emperor Yunai sorted out his thoughts and regained his magnanimity. He bowed his hands and saluted, with a bit of pleading in his words. Oh! Li Yun raised his eyebrows and said with a half-smile, "Do you understand now? Just now, in your heart, you were a little dissatisfied that I took action and pulled the earthly immortal world out of chaos." Younger generation. Emperor Yunai looked embarrassed. It was his first time to come to Tianji Tower, but he didn't expect that as soon as he entered, his little thoughts would have been seen through. To be honest, he has no objection to the integration of the earthly immortal realm and the purple Xian realm. After all, this can promote the improvement of both worlds, and can make the world as a whole undergo a transformation. Looking at the eternal world, it can be said that it has hundreds of benefits and no harm. But crucially, the timing was wrong. The current Zixuan realm is too weak. If it is given to Zixuan realm again, it will take another 100,000 years. By that time, the situation will undergo earth-shaking changes. Even if the earthly immortal realm merges, it will not be as overwhelming as it is now. All right. Li Yun picked up the teacup, took a sip of tea, and said casually, "If I don't like you, you will be gone from the moment you step into the Tianji Tower." Call. Emperor Yunai was relieved, wiped the sweat from his forehead, took a deep breath, and said, "Junior, thank you Senior for not killing me." Tell the truth. This is the first time he has encountered such great pressure since he became emperor in such a long time. Just because of a thought of his, he was already on the verge of life and death. If this was spread, no one would believe it. But it happened. It also happened to a great emperor. Your life still has some effect for the time being, I won't kill you. Li Yun put down the teacup, glanced at the two of them, and said, "Now we can talk about the affairs of the Zixuan realm. Since you two want to save Zixuan realm, have you prepared the price?" Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 344. The junior has been practicing for many years, and although he has some knowledge, in the eyes of the seniors, I'm afraid it's not worth mentioning. Emperor Bai Li smiled shamefully. There was a flash of brilliance in his hand, and a light blue cane appeared. It was filled with divine radiance and a faint imperial power. It was made of immortal blue gold and shone like stars. After countless experiences over the years, this cane still has unpredictable power. This is the weapon of a contemporary figure in the past, when the junior did not become the emperor. Today, I give it to the senior. I hope that the senior will not hesitate to reveal a glimmer of hope in the Zixuan realm. You are smart. Li Yun glanced at Emperor Bai Li, took the cane over, and looked it up and down. Although this cane is a quasi-emperor's weapon, the material is at the level of an emperor's weapon. Its owner should be competing with Emperor Bai Li. When he was defeated, the weapon became a trophy. If the other party could also become an emperor, the level of this cane would not be the quasi-emperor level. It would be a genuine imperial weapon. The senior was so complimentary. A smile flashed across Emperor Bai Li's face. He couldn't help but glance at Emperor Yunai, who looked extremely embarrassed. The two of them stepped into the Tianji Tower together. One was left alone, and the other was praised. Which one is higher? Which one is lower is obvious at a glance. You know, this is a compliment from Master Tianji. Who is Master Tianji? He is a person who surpasses a true immortal. To get a compliment from him is an honor even for the emperor after all. Not everyone has this honor. After all, the Zixuan realm is also a world, and as the powerful enemy of the Zixuan realm, it is the earthly immortal realm. With just the two of you, you may not be able to protect the entire world. Li Yun smiled casually and continued, even if the Zixuan realm can be kept intact, the price is not something you two can afford. These words. He said it very clearly. This is not a grudge between a certain person or a group of people, but it rises to a whole world. The reason why the battle between Zixuan realm and Tianyuan realm did not break out in an all-round way is precisely because there is not much difference in combat power between the two sides, and there are several emperor-level figures. Now there is a huge gap in strength. It is almost impossible to go through the transition without any fireworks. Senior, as long as Zixuan realm can survive the disaster safely, this junior will be willing to bear no matter how high the price is. Emperor Yunai spoke. His years as emperor were much shorter than that of Emperor Bai Li. His blood and family ties are still strong, and his original belief in protecting one side is still there. Therefore, he opened his mouth much faster than Emperor Bai Li. Oh! Li Yun raised his eyebrows and didn't take it seriously. He chuckled and said, "That's easy to say. If you can send a world that is not weaker than Zixuan realm, I can divide Zixuan realm and make Zixuan realm independent from now on. We'll definitely be immune to the conquests of the earthly immortal realm." Ah! The face of Emperor Yunai froze. This is a bit too much. If they can really find a world that is not weaker than Zixuan realm, why do they come here? Moreover, even if they find it, with their strength, they will not be able to send it. 1. The pressure of the world, if touched rashly, is enough to crush them into a piece of powder. It is not something that a great emperor can resist. More importantly, he just wants to keep the Zixuan realm safe and sound. As for dividing the Zixuan realm, that is absolutely impossible. The world level has been promoted. Returning to the original shape again, with the road cut off, this is more uncomfortable than killing him. Senior, is there any other way? Emperor Yunai looked complicated. He cupped his hands and asked helplessly. I still say the same thing, of course there is a way to get the best of both worlds, but you can't afford the price. Li Yun said indifferently. That. Emperor Yunai was unwilling to give in and asked again. A few days ago, the Tianyuan world suffered a disaster and was almost in danger of destruction. Thanks to the intervention of the senior poster, this disaster was avoided. The matter of the burial emperor. There was a big commotion. Even far away in the Zixuan realm, many creatures know about it, especially some huge forces. They even have a clear idea of the future, including what happened when the Blood Demon clan crossed over. Today, Emperor Yunai brought up old things again, obviously because he wanted to follow the example of Emperor Zhang Tian. Throw the earthly immortal realm to the Tianji Tower. If the owner of Tianji takes action, let alone one or two true immortals, even if all the creatures in the earthly immortal world are tied together, it is probably not enough for Li Yun to hold down with one finger. After all, the earthly immortal realm was brought here by Li Yun. If it can be captured, there are naturally countless ways to destroy the earthly immortal realm. Today, the Zixuan realm is in danger of annihilation. I wonder if Senior Master Tianji can. Emperor Yunai pursed his lips. He glanced at Emperor Bai Li, and then at the quasi-emperor armament placed on the table. He gritted his teeth, took out an imperial scripture, and placed it on the table. The junior's words have no other meaning, they just need the senior's oral instructions. Ordinary people's oral instructions are the same as if they have not been said. But the Tianji building master's oral instructions are enough to shock the entire Earth immortal world. Anyone who violates the oral instructions, he believes that the days of the earth immortal world are over without taking action himself. It can be said that all he needs to do is Tianji Luzu said a word. That is more effective than countless great emperor formations. It is enough to make the creatures in the earthly immortal world not dare to take a step beyond the thunder pool. Ah! Clinker! Li Yun chuckled. He remained unmoved. His eyes swept across the void. A book of Emperor's Sutra flew up and landed in front of Emperor Yunai. He said, I don't lack an imperial scripture. If it were other things, such as immortality realm skills, magical powers, elixirs, and fairy materials, he might be tempted, but now, he has taken out an Emperor's Sutra. To be honest, this is already enough for him. But it's dispensable. I blocked the entire Earth immortal realm for an Emperor's scripture. Isn't that what a fool did? The Earth immortal realm is so powerful, and the good things they can send are much more than those of the Zixuan realm. Senior. Emperor Yunai still wants to speak. Beside. Emperor Bai Li shook his head slightly at him. Senior poster. Emperor Bai Li spoke and asked softly, Junior wants to know, Senior, is there a way to become an immortal? He was different from Emperor Yunai. Although Emperor Bai Li has descendants alive, he has long since ignored them, and his temperament is extremely indifferent, although he has the idea of saving the Zixuan realm. But more importantly, I want to go further in terms of strength. Now that I have become stronger, it is not impossible to save the Zixuan realm at that time. The way to become an immortal. Li Yun chuckled, tapped his fingers on the table, and said calmly, of course there are, and there are many. Do you want that world? Ah! As soon as these words came out, both of them were stunned for a moment, looked at each other, and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 345. Is the method of becoming an immortal so casual? This idea came into their minds at the same time. This is unreasonable. Is it possible that there are ways to become immortals in the Zixuan realm and Tianyuan realm? But these two worlds do not seem to have appeared in the long history. How can a true immortal find the way to become an immortal? Dare I ask the seniors, is there a way to become an immortal in the Tianyuan realm? Emperor Yu Nai asked softly. Good. Li Yun took a sip of tea and nodded gently. In the history of Tianyuan world, there are no weak ones. Although they cannot become immortals, there are always a few people who have left Tianyuan world and left behind the method of becoming immortals. However, those who left had their space channels cut off for some unknown reason. Over time, these things became top secrets. To this day, no one knows that there are still such secrets in the world. Senior, what is the value of this? Emperor Yunai's eyes flashed with a fiery color. He wholeheartedly wants to save Zixuan realm. Nowadays, it is unlikely that the master of Tianji will take action personally, but if he becomes an immortal, he may be able to resist the earthly immortal world for a while. It doesn't need to be sustained for a long time, just tens of thousands of years. In the purple mystic realm, those veteran emperors who have been living in the restricted area may suddenly become the supreme true immortals once their secrets explode. This way, his stress will be reduced a lot. If the two of you work together, you might be able to purchase a chance to become an immortal. Li Yun seemed to be smiling but not smiling, and took another slow sip of tea. After putting down the teacup, he looked at the two of them laughing without saying a word. One place. Emperor Bai Li frowned. Two people, but there is only one chance. How to distinguish this? Although before coming, I had guessed that the method of becoming an immortal would not be too cheap, but the fact is still hard to accept. After all, when the two set out, the earthly immortal realm had not yet come. They could definitely fight, the winner would become an immortal, and the loser would become an emperor, but now that the enemy is facing them, How could the two of them fight? The seniors should know that the imperial arms in the hands of the juniors is the 87th one on the imperial arms list, and its value should be slightly higher than ordinary imperial arms. Moreover, the junior has other things in his hands. Emperor Baili opened his mouth and knew all the treasures he had collected over the years. But the words are not finished yet. Then he was interrupted by Li Yun. There are also 2 intact imperial scriptures and the corpse of a great emperor, right? Li Yun said with a smile. Well. Emperor Baili was ashamed. Everything I want to say next has been said, so naturally there is no need to continue. Nothing can be hidden from the seniors. Emperor Baili cupped his hands and said, if you don't have these foundations, if you two come here together today, I'm afraid you will come back empty-handed. Li Yun glanced at the two of them and said lightly. After all, not everyone can afford the method of becoming an immortal. Although the weapons on the imperial weapon list are of high value, it also depends on where they are placed and in the eyes of whom. In the eyes of ordinary cultivators and even a holy land, imperial weapons are unattainable existences. But in the eyes of a great emperor or a true immortal, it is not that important. Who doesn't have an imperial weapon? That's what the seniors taught you. Emperor Baili sighed in his heart and cupped his hands. The words of Master Tianji were tantamount to reaching a conclusion. There were only 2 choices before the two of them, either to work together to buy an opportunity. Then one person would become an immortal. Or turn head away. Although you can buy other information, such as exploring the secrets of a certain force in the earthly immortal world, this kind of information is of little use. Knowing it is the same as not knowing it. At this critical moment, only strength is the fundamental. There is no other way but to become an immortal. But in the final analysis, both of them are at the peak of the emperor, and they are also on the emperor list. Who will become an immortal? The two looked at each other. At the same time, they took off the storage ring on their hands. Sent to Li Yun. Senior, in your opinion, which one of us has a greater chance of becoming an immortal? Great Emperor Baili asked. He is senior and has profound knowledge. Logically speaking, the probability of becoming an immortal is higher, but in this world, there are many examples of coming from behind. Emperor Yunai was able to achieve the goal in more than 1,000,000 years. To reach the point where he is equal to him, he is naturally superior. Maybe, it is easier for the other party to become an emperor than him. When Emperor Yunai heard this, his eyes also lit up, with a hint of hope in his eyes, he raised his head and looked over. Same. Li Yun glanced at the two people and said casually. Just now, he had already checked in the system, and there seemed to be only one chance for the two to become immortals, and the price was relatively reasonable. Since the system has given this chance, then it proves no matter who gets the chance, 2 people can become immortals naturally. This. Emperor Baili was a little disappointed when he heard this, but at the same time he was slightly relieved. His face as a veteran emperor was saved. He was not stepped on by Yunai. I dare to ask Senior, where is this opportunity? Emperor Yunai couldn't wait to say. At this time, the earthly immortal realm has begun to merge with the Zixuan realm. The 2 realms are bordering the wilderness, and the power of chaos that created the world is surging. It won't take long for it to calm down. Maybe it won't be until the 2 realms are completely calm. Come down. There will be figures of great emperor level starting to cross over. There is not much time left for the 2 of them. Right now, becoming an immortal quickly is the first priority. Zixuan realm. Li Yun opened the corners of his mouth slightly and uttered 3 words. Zixuan realm. Emperor Yu. Nai was surprised. He was confused and said in disbelief, Senior, are you talking about the fallen immortal ancient palace? This is indeed the inheritance of a true immortal, but it is already empty. Everything has been taken away. If you go in now, You can't even drink the soup. The Zixuan realm is not as simple as you think. Li Yun waved his hand, stood up, and said softly, back then, Xian Mo opened the space channel, stepped into the earthly immortal world, and then returned. You should have heard about it. Ancient Emperor Suan Mo. Great Emperor Yunai looked solemn and nodded slightly. He had heard about Ancient Emperor Suan Mo before. He was a legend. With the strength of the emperor, he penetrated the earthly immortal realm, and then reversed the situation not long after entering the earthly immortal realm. Heaven became an immortal. Later, he started a battle with the supreme immortal from the earthly immortal world. The battle between the two was very fierce and once shattered a big world. However, in the end, ancient Emperor Suan Mo finally killed his opponent. This was simply the road to cheating. It fascinated countless great emperors and wished they could replace him. Although ancient Emperor Suan Mo left an indelible legend in the Zixuan realm, it was also him who laid a huge hidden danger for the Zixuan realm. That is, the Earth Immortal realm may kill them at any time. In the past, it was because the Fang clan in the Earth Immortal realm suppressed the space channel, but now the Fang clan is gone, and the two worlds are still connected. The result is it's different. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 346. Senior, do you mean that the ancient Emperor Suan Mo left behind not only the fallen immortal ancient palace, but also other inheritances? Emperor Bai. Li looked excited and asked excitedly. Let's call it inheritance. Li Yun nodded and said vaguely. Is it an inheritance? The two great emperors are confused. How can this still count? Back then, Xian Mo defeated a true immortal, but unlike the great emperor, the true immortal was difficult to kill and difficult to destroy. It was difficult for a person of the same level to kill him, so Xian Mo sealed him in the Zixuan realm. Li Yun was talking eloquently. He casually told a secret story that had been buried in ancient history. Senior, what you mean is that there is still a true immortal alive in our Zixuan world. Emperor Bai Li spoke. This time, his expression was not very excited, but more solemn, because the ancient Emperor Suan Mo was dead, and even his descendants were being hunted down in great embarrassment. And his opponent, but he was sealed in the Zixuan realm. Once he escapes the seal, the good days of the Zixuan realm will come to an end. After all, the opponent of ancient Emperor Suan Mo back then came from the earthly immortal realm. Died. Li Yun said angrily. Such a long time has passed, even without that battle, the life of the true immortal is almost over. Whether he can survive is unknown. Not to mention being sealed in the Zixuan realm. Under the double suppression of the rules of heaven and the formations set up by Xian Mo, it would be a damn thing if he could still survive. That's good. Emperor Bai Li breathed a sigh of relief. But then, he reacted again. Senior Tianji building master will not mention a secret for no reason. He must have a deep meaning when he says this. Is it possible? The opportunity that the senior talked about was what was left behind after the death of the true immortal? You guessed it right, the opportunity I am referring to is the inheritance left by that true immortal. Li Yun said with a chuckle. A true immortal's net worth should be extremely rich, but this suppressed true immortal is different. He is a defeated person. The weapons on his body, as well as countless inner essences, they have become the trophies of ancient Emperor Suan Mo. The only thing left on his body is probably the massive inheritance in his mind. If Emperor Bai Li and Emperor Yunai ran over and got the inheritance of that true immortal, there may be no other benefits, but becoming an immortal is not a big problem. Senior, could it be that the place you mentioned is, immortal burial place, right? Emperor Yunai seemed to have thought of something and asked softly. Good. Li Yun nodded. The reputation of the immortal burial land in the Zixuan realm is not small, just like the Kunlun ruins in the Tianyuan realm in the past. In a sense, the immortal burial land is more terrifying than the Kunlun ruins. Because, in the immortal burial land, filled with the power of immortals, throughout the ages, the characters who have stepped into it have all been above the emperor. They entered it just to understand the laws of immortality, hoping to become immortals, but unfortunately, after such a long time, the immortal didn't see it. But there were many emperors who fell among them. After all, the power of the immortal level is not something that ordinary emperors can touch. If you go too deep into it, even the peak emperors will hate it. As for understanding it, don't even think about all the secrets. To this day, no one in the Zixuan world knows whether a true immortal is really buried in this immortal burial place. But today, listen to what the master of Tianji has to say. Words. The two people present were almost certain that there was indeed an immortal who died in the immortal burial land, and a huge legacy was left behind. It's really a burial place for immortals. Emperor Yunai's breath was stagnant. Now he finally understands what this immortal burial ground is used for. Emotions are used to seal an immortal. Fortunately, they did not break the seal by mistake. In the place where the seniors are buried, there are many formations, and the killing formations are shocking to the world. Blood rain falls every day. Even the great emperor may be corroded by a drop of blood rain. If the two of us go in, we may not be safe. Emperor Bai Li said after careful consideration. The inheritance of immortals is true, but life is more important. No matter how good the thing is, you have to live to get it, right? Oh, the real danger in the burial immortal land is not just the formations. After all, it was set up by ancient Emperor Suanmo. His original intention was not to suppress the creatures in the Zixuan realm. If he doesn't want people to step into it, with your strength, it is estimated that the moment you get close to the formation, the path of life and death will disappear. Li Yun said casually. He tapped his fingers on the table and said slowly, the real danger in the immortal burial ground is the insights left by the true immortals. This. Emperor Bai Li frowned. Isn't that true immortal already dead? Could it be that there is some backup plan left behind? He is a creature from the earthly immortal realm. Even if he leaves behind some insights, how can he take advantage of the people from the Zixuan realm? Li Yun asked back. That true immortal died in the hands of ancient Emperor Suanmo. I'm afraid he hated the Zixuan realm to the very core. His things will never be seen by the creatures in the Zixuan realm if they touch them. 2 days of sunshine. The emperor who didn't know the situation walked in. He probably would have become an immortal, let alone an immortal. He would have to thank God if he could leave a soul behind. Senior. Emperor Bai Li spoke with a hint of hope on his face. Rest assured. Li Yun waved his hand, his expression did not change at all, and he looked extremely casual. He continued, since I have pointed out a clear path for you, I will naturally not let you die. Senior means. Emperor Bai Li leaned forward, becoming more and more respectful. He was waiting for Li Yun's next words. Just hold this jade slip and step into it. The method of breaking the formation is recorded in the jade slip. Just hold the jade slip in your hand and you can absorb your aura. A jade slip appeared in Li Yun's hand. He placed it on the table and said, even a true immortal cannot see through the true nature of any of you. Great treasure. After listening to Li Yun's words, a thought flashed through their heads at the same time. As a great emperor, in front of a true immortal, he will definitely be exposed to all his trump cards, but this jade slip can be concealed. Exceeding a true immortal. This is simply unbelievable. More importantly, the senior did not say how many times this jade slip can be used. In this case, wouldn't it be unlimited? With such a jade slip, you can attack anyone, even if it is a real person. Xiandu can't see any clues, it's a must-have weapon for killing people and stealing goods. Remember, this jade slip can only protect one person. Li Yun said with a smile, and finally added. Emperor Bai Li and Emperor Yunai raised their heads, with a trace of surprise flashing in their eyes, and murmured. Only one. But there are two people here. And both of them paid for it? So the question is, who does this jade slip belong to? Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 347. Senior, what are you doing? Great Emperor Yunai asked with a puzzled look on his face. The method of becoming an immortal can only make one person become an immortal. Li Yun said without comment. The senior is right, the method of becoming an immortal can only make one person become an immortal, but why is there only one jade slip? Emperor Yu Nai asked. Apart from anything else, at least this jade slip must be one for each person. After all, this is also a good thing. It can be hidden from the true immortals' induction, which is of great use to them. In a true sense, it has surpassed some quasi-emperor level imperial soldiers. The price you pay can only be exchanged for these things. Li Yun was unmoved. He could make as many jade slips as he wanted, but if he gave them away too much, they would be ruined on the street. Often the most precious things have a price but no market. This. Emperor Yunai's expression froze, and he glanced at the jade slip unwillingly. There was a feeling of bleeding in his heart. Although he was not weak in strength. But compared to Bailey, it's still a little worse. Said without politeness. The method of becoming an immortal is more likely to fall into the hands of the other party. There is a high possibility that he himself will lose everything. It's just that I lost the possibility of becoming an immortal. I also lost my millions of riches. If I think about coming to Tianji Tower in the future, I don't know how long it will be. Don't be discouraged. Li Yun saw through Emperor Yunai's thoughts. He opened his lips lightly and said slowly, there are many opportunities in the burial immortal land. There is an imperial weapon among them. I think you will be very interested. Hearing these words, Emperor Bai Li and Emperor Yunai were shocked at the same time, and quickly looked over. An imperial weapon that even the emperors are interested in. That is not an ordinary weapon. It is very likely that it is weapons on the imperial weapon list. Nowadays, in the Zixuan realm, there is probably only one emperor soldier who can be listed on the emperor's soldiers list, but there is no master yet. You two guessed well. The sky-shattering sword, ranked 5th on the imperial weapon list, happens to be wandering in the burial immortal land. If you can get it in your hands, it will be even more powerful for either of you two. Li Yun said with a smile. Of course. This is only before becoming an immortal. If either of the two becomes an immortal, the effect of the sky-shattering sword will be very limited. It can be said that it is tasteless and it is a pity to discard it. It is indeed the sky-shattering sword. The thoughts in Emperor Yunai's mind turned quickly. He glanced at the jade slip, and a trace of fire flashed in his eyes. He wants both the sky-shaking sword and the method of becoming an immortal. He won't need the sky-shaking sword in the future, but he will leave it to the future. People, if you enrich your background, it won't be a big problem. Having said that, you two can leave. If it were any later, the Zixuan realm might not be able to be saved. Li Yun raised his hand, pointed to the door, and gave the order to expel the guests. Senior. Emperor Yunai stood up, he still wanted to speak. In his opinion, the master of Tianji Tower deduces the secrets of heaven and can know the past and future. Who among the two of him can become an immortal? Maybe his senior already knows it well. Therefore, he wanted to ask, but he felt confident. But the words were not finished yet. He only felt that the world was spinning in front of him. When he came back to his senses again, the surrounding scene had changed drastically. Broken stars surround him, and the surroundings are filled with lonely and desolate scenes, with few people inhabiting them, like a dead land. Two borders. Emperor Uni spoke. This is the place where Tianyuan realm and Zixuan realm are connected. Even if a great emperor rushes here, it will take a while. But the master of Tianji just waved his sleeves and sent the two of them out of the Tianyuan world. This was simply unbelievable. He had almost no resistance during the whole process. Beside him, Emperor Bai Li also stood quietly, with a look of shock on his face that had not calmed down for a long time. Is this the trick of the owner of Tianji? Emperor Yunai sighed with emotion. He looked sideways slightly and suddenly discovered that between him and Bai Li, a jade slip as white as jade was floating in the air. It was blooming with rays of light, like a small sun, which could not be ignored. The way to become an immortal. The moment they saw the jade slip, the two of them breathed rapidly for a few minutes. Almost at the same time, they opened their big hands and grabbed the jade slip. Bang! There was a loud noise. An imperial battle began. The two of them were quite restrained in their actions, just to decide the winner, not to fight to the death. In the blink of an eye, they traveled hundreds of millions of miles and quickly approached the burial immortal land. Almost when Yunai and Bai Li rushed to the burial place of the immortal. The other side of the purple mystic realm. The two worlds were shaken forever, the aftermath was vast, and endless chaos exploded. Everyone retreated again and again, not daring to get too close. The fragmented space and the mighty laws of heaven and earth merge with each other at this moment. Slowly gathered together. Zixuan realm and earthly immortal realm, combines. Emperor Moun spoke, with a very solemn expression on his face. He looked into the distance with his eyes, and a black mace appeared in his hand. The moment it appeared, it exuded an aura that would shatter the ages. Boom! There was a loud noise. In the distant sky of Zixuan realm, in the originally empty star field, a vast world opened, like an endless picture scroll. It spread out from the sky. The mountains were majestic, the ancient trees are towering, and the Yangtze River is winding and circling, revealing a majestic momentum. Even if you don't cross the border, you can still feel that this is an extremely powerful world. There is a supreme aura circulating. In the mountains and forests in the middle of the night, ancient beasts were rampant, and rays of fairy light rose into the sky. Countless human figures were densely packed in the void, each one wearing hunting robes, and their energy and blood rushed into the night. So many creatures. Great Emperor Moun frowned and couldn't help but exclaimed. As soon as the two worlds merged, so many people from the earthly immortal world appeared. He didn't think that these people were here to watch the fun. Especially at the front. The human race was so dark. With no end in sight, the armies of the earthly immortal realm are everywhere, pouring in from the end of the horizon, extremely oppressive. This should belong to a certain force. They are wearing uniform armor, all in pitch black, with cold spears, swords like frost, and crotch riding a ferocious mount. His energy and blood are as powerful as Wang Yang. On the sky, there are countless warships, arranged together, like dragons pressing down on the realm. Before they have completely crossed the border, they are so heavy that people can't breathe. Come. Above every warship, there is a big flag fluttering. The word underworld is written in the letter. Just looking at these two words, there are endless grievances wailing, cutting through time and space, rushing from the long river of the universe. It is so terrifying that people almost mistakenly think they are seeing the scene after their own death. Such a torrent of steel is rolling in, making the world tremble. However, such an army is boundless, but there is no noise, no one shouts, not a single mount roared, and advanced silently. The more this happened, the more it made people's scalp numb, and a gust of cold air rushed up from the soles of the feet and went straight into the head. This is a bloody elite who has experienced countless bloody battles. The invincible army that Fang was able to create would probably be overwhelming in the Zixuan realm. No Holy Land or Imperial clan can compete with this black army. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 348. The place where the Zixuan realm and the earthly immortal realm border. Extremely dull and depressing. The army moved forward in an orderly manner, as if the whole world was pressing down on them. There was no end in sight, which made people feel short of breath and almost suffocating. Wherever the soldiers passed, even the creatures in the earthly and immortal realms all gave way. They originally came from the earthly immortal realm, and they knew better than the creatures from the Zixuan realm how terrifying this force was. To know. In the earthly immortal world, some supreme inheritances, even those with true immortals, must give them some face. Don't want to offend too much. Surrender, or be destroyed. Behind the endless army, a domineering, cold, and ruthless voice came out, majestic in the world, and penetrated into the depths of everyone's soul. It was impossible to tell where this voice came from, let alone the owner of this voice. It was a man or a woman. But the moment the voice came out, countless creatures from the purple mystic realm fell to their knees with a thud, unable to resist even a trace, as if they were facing a supreme immortal king. They couldn't help themselves. He had to kneel down and surrender. Humiliation, unwillingness, anger, and all kinds of emotions came one after another. Many saints and even Saint King level figures had bloodshot eyes and activated the true energy in their bodies, hoping to get rid of this bondage. Are the earthly immortal realm deceiving me that there is no one in the purple Xian realm? Among the endless creatures in the Zixuan realm, a Saint King shouted. Before he finished speaking, the next moment, there was a soft sound of pop, and the Sage King who had just spoken opened his eyes wide and stood upright. The energy and blood like Wang Yang quickly slipped away. The vitality in his body seemed to be hardened by a pair of invisible palms. Life was deprived of life. In less than a breath, it turned into a piece of rotten wood. It was blown by a breeze, turned into powder, and dissipated between heaven and earth. So what if no one bullies you? The indifferent voice without a trace of emotion came, making countless creatures in the purple mystic realm shudder. Originally, many of the creatures in the purple mysterious realm who came from all over the world had a cold war and quickly retreated in the void. They were fine just now. The Sage King became a fan in the next second. This scene shocked the hearts of countless people. They didn't even know who was taking action, let alone when. That was a Saint King. In any holy land, or even among major forces, they have the absolute top combat power, but here, they can't even make the slightest waves? The feeling of despair and helplessness overwhelmed everyone present. This is just Zi-Xian, it is just a force in the world, and it is not the foundation of the entire world, but it has oppressed countless people in the Zixuan world and is breathless. If the foundation of the entire earth immortal world explodes, how can they resist it? Hateful. That's too much. The earthly immortal world is so arrogant. The creatures in the purple mystic realm spoke in low voices and did not dare to make loud noises. They could only suppress the anger in their hearts. Many people looked up at the starry sky, where there were stars floating in the air. They understand. Above the sky, on a certain star, there may be the great emperor of their Zixuan world standing. Hell. On the ancient star, Emperor Mon was holding a big halberd, and his robes were making a hunting sound. He opened and closed his eyes, staring down unblinkingly, and said in a cold voice. It's just too whimsical for just one force to want the entire Zixuan realm to surrender. If one of them crosses the boundary, I will kill him. The Emperor Tiankai spoke. His voice was very calm. Only the ancient long sword behind his back was trembling endlessly. There was a strong fighting spirit suppressed in the scabbard. Once it was cut out, it would be enough to destroy half of the world. This force called underworld is either overconfident or a fool, and is used as a pathfinder by other forces in the earthly immortal world. Emperor Bilao held a cane in his hand, his old body trembling. He looked down and saw the black army that had entered the wilderness between the two borders. In his turbid eyes, he didn't know what he was thinking. Although the Zixuan realm cannot compare to the earthly immortal realm, it cannot be conquered by a single force. If you are not greedy enough, you will push yourself to death. Good. Emperor Mon nodded. He glanced at the endless creatures in the Zixuan realm, took a step forward, and used the big mace in his hand to bloom billions of rays of light, illuminating the whole world. The terrifying and ultimate imperial power moved up and down the 9 heavens. Juyo makes countless stars sway together. Just now, Emperor Mon looked indifferent and said in a deep voice, "The underworld killed a saint king of our world. This revenge should be repaid with color." His words were very soft, but they spread throughout the two worlds, and countless creatures heard it. This sentence. In the purple mysterious world. Many people looked happy after hearing this. This is. Has a great emperor in our world chosen to stand up? The voice sounded like it was Emperor Mon. The appearance of a great emperor was like a shot of invigoration, which cheered up many living beings. Boom. But at this moment, at the end of the sky, deep in the earthly immortal realm, there was a ray of light rushing into the night, carrying an awe-inspiring murderous aura that spread for hundreds of millions of miles. The people on the side of the Zixuan realm trembled on the spot and felt there was a chill coming from the soul, and there was a feeling that the end of the world was coming. It was as if a demon god under the 9 netherworlds had awakened, looking down at the human world. They didn't need to think too much. They understood. This was the power behind the underworld. As a supreme figure, she is preparing to cross the border in person. This is an unimaginable power that makes everyone feel cold from head to toe. There is an indescribable pessimism that even affects people's minds. A trace of the newly born, the pride was extinguished in an instant. Because that kind of fluctuation was too terrifying. It deeply shook their souls. They were both emperors, but the aura of Emperor Mon and this being were obviously very different. Many people are desperate. Boom. A deafening roar came. In the sky, there was an explosion, and there was a chariot made of ink-colored fairy jade, piercing eternity, crushing the world, and slowly approaching with supreme power. An emperor-level figure. Many people in Zixuan realm saw this chariot, their pupils shrank, and they were extremely shocked. They could detect that there was an unparalleled figure in this chariot. They could tell it just by his breath before he showed up. This great emperor is probably not weaker than Bai Li or Yunai. This is definitely a person on the imperial list. Some emperor guessed. At this moment, everyone knew that the trouble was big. A figure on the emperor's list came across the border. Who in their Zixuan realm can fight? Yunai and Bai Li are no longer here. Bian Huang, I don't know exactly where it is, but according to their words, no one is a match for the character in the chariot one-on-one. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 349. This person is on the emperor's list. Who exists? Many emperors furrowed their brows and began to speculate in their minds. There are only 10 places on the emperor list. The first one is the burial emperor of the blood demon realm. Now he has been suppressed by the senior master of TNG building, and his whereabouts are unknown. He was imprisoned somewhere by the original poster. The 9th and 12th positions are the emperors of the Zixuan realm. The remaining 7 are all the emperors of the earthly immortal realm. It is difficult for them to guess which one this is from the earthly immortal realm. A great emperor. But what is certain is that none of them can compare with them. As soon as the two worlds merged, a person on the emperor's list stepped in. It was quite a feat. I want to see how much strength you have. Great Emperor Mon was eager to try, his whole body was glowing, and his fighting spirit was soaring to the sky. The light emanating from the big mace in his hand became more and more brilliant, as if a heavenly emperor was resurrected. Boom! Over the wasteland of the universe, a jade chariot is passing by, surrounded by fairy light. Mysterious runes are engraved on it. The years are long, as if it is connected to other worlds, with an aura of prehistoric times. Wherever it passes, there are endless creatures in the earthly and immortal world, they all made way for a passage. Every creature looked at the chariot with a trace of fear, and deep in their eyes, there was even a trace of unconcealable fear. It was as if someone was sitting in the chariot. Like a supreme demon. People dare not look directly at him. Rumble. The sound gradually died away, the jade chariot stopped, the curtains fluttered, and a supreme figure sat in the middle, shrouded in chaotic mist, making it impossible to judge its appearance. But there was a ray of indifference and contempt for the world, which penetrated the void and landed on an ancient star in Zixuan realm. Surrender, or destroy. The voice that looked down on the world sounded again. This time, the owner of the voice was not speaking to the creatures in the Zixuan world, but to a group of great emperors on the ancient star. These words from above seemed to ignite a gunpowder keg, making Zixuan the great emperors of the world were immediately angry. They had ruled the world for tens of millions of years. How had they ever been so underestimated? Court death. The great emperor Mon shouted coldly, with his long hair rising up into the sky. His blood energy spread out for billions of miles, suppressing countless big stars, and surged out like a sea of blood. It was too violent. It shocked both worlds. Everyone, he directly flooded the wilderness of the universe. Those who can become the great emperor, no matter where they are placed in a world, are undoubtedly the pinnacle of combat power. No one dares to underestimate them, and even worships them. Who dares to directly to make people like this surrender? Not to mention, both parties are of the same level. Buzz. A big mace flew across the sky, blooming with a monstrous black light. The power of the imperial army shook the 9 clouds, and the unparalleled aura was overwhelming. It was like an ancient mountain, crashing down. This was an extremely terrifying scene. The mountain turned into a mace, covering millions of miles in radius, not only covering Yahoo, but also the army behind Yahoo, as well as the creatures in the earth and immortal world. This is a decisive blow. Not only must a great emperor be suppressed, but the earth must also be a lesson from the immortal world. With just this one blow, if no one stops it, countless people in the immortal world may be killed. Over the past 100,000 years, those who took the initiative to attack this emperor have all turned into withered bones in the grave. In the dark jade, a cold and majestic voice sounded, like a demon lord swearing an oath, like an immortal king whispering, extremely captivating. The words have not yet fallen to the ground. There are numerous visions in the sky and the earth, and there are thousands of rules of the avenue in the void. Tens of thousands of them turned into immortal phoenixes spreading their wings, condensed into true dragons circling, and condensed into Kunpeng splitting the sky. In addition, there were black lightnings and bloody lightnings one after another, surrounded by chaotic energy, splitting down from high in the sky, and intertwining here. The sound was horrifying. In front of the Jade Palace, a curtain was opened, and fingers that had always been as white as jade stretched out. With a snap of her fingers, a divine rainbow flew out, illuminating the heaven and earth. It split billions of miles of void into two. It caused countless creatures to appear in a trance, as if they were in the beginning of the world. Boom, there was a loud noise. The magical powers of the two great emperors collided together. At this moment, the sky and the earth continued to glow, and then burst. The most terrifying thing happened here on the border between the two realms. That kind of battle was unimaginable and was enough to shock ancient and modern times. The aftermath of terror swept in all directions. Nothing could be seen. There was chaos. No one knew who won and who lost after the two people fought. It seemed like a second had passed, and it seemed like tens of millions of years had passed. Poof! A touch of miserable blood bloomed between heaven and earth, dyeing the chaos red, piercing the void, making countless creatures speechless and shocked by it. That was the blood of the Emperor. With the power of the Emperor, it rushed in all directions, it penetrated countless stars. Then, another burly body flew out upside down. His body was in tatters and covered with wounds. He crashed into the depths of the Zixuan realm and directly smashed a piece floating in the starry sky. Continent in Mon. The Emperor Tiankai lost his voice. He couldn't believe that Mon had just lost in the fight, which lasted only 1 or 2 breaths. He was defeated so quickly and so miserably that it was impossible for anyone to react. Save Mon. The great Emperor below spoke. He reacted very quickly, but there were people who reacted faster than him. I saw. In the dark jade, a plain white jade palm came out. A rune shone in the palm, and it struck the depths of the Zixuan realm. The palm printed hasn't fallen yet. The void is trapped by the lock. As strong as the great Emperor, it won't be able to break free for a while. You dare! The Emperor Tiankai, the Emperor below and others shouted angrily. They wanted to stop them, but it was too late. They could only watch helplessly as their palms fell from the sky. Bang! There was an explosion. Deep in the Zixuan realm, a bright firework bloomed. It was so gorgeous that people dared not look directly at it. Everyone understood that it was an ancient continent with countless creatures living on it, but today when the palm fell, everything turned into history. Including the continent, everything turned into smoke and dust and disappeared. Cold, ruthless, cruel, and domineering, this was everyone's first impression of the master of Yahoo, and it was erased with one strike. A continent. At the same time, he also shattered the body of Emperor Mon and completely imprisoned him. No one knows what will happen to Emperor Mon in the future. Maybe. From now on, there will never be this Emperor Mon. Figure. Who are you? The Emperor Tiankai suddenly looked back, staring at the dark jade stone with unblinking eyes, and said in a cold voice. The world respects me as the Emperor of the underworld. In the dark jade, an indifferent voice came slowly and slowly. Emperor of Hades. After hearing these words, many emperors in the Zixuan realm changed their expressions and took a breath of cold air. It was her. The second person on the emperor list. The peak of the emperor's strength. Among the 3 realms, it can be said that except for Zhang Tian apart from the great emperor, he is the most likely to become an immortal, and is also the person closest to the supreme true immortal. No wonder. In the Zixuan world, Emperor Mon has just become emperor about 100,000 years ago, and is only inferior to Menkingzi and others in the Tianyuan world. With a slight edge of strength, it is reasonable to lose against such a terrifying person. But what is hard to accept is that Emperor Mon lost too quickly and too miserably. It was like an extremely loud slapping it appeared on the faces of all the great emperors in the Zixuan realm, making every great emperor feel their faces burning. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 350. Hand over fellow Taoist Mon. The Emperor Tiankai took a step forward. He was majestic and heroic. He was dressed in grey robes, and his long black hair was flowing down. There was an invincible power that reverberated between heaven and earth. His eyes were bright, like he raised 2 sharp heavenly knives with one hand and held them slightly in the void. The long knife behind his back automatically came out of his body and fell into his hand. The moment he held the handle of the knife, his whole aura changed. The evil aura was overwhelming. The heavenly sword is stained with the emperor's blood and clangs like an ancient sword fairy that has stepped out of the long river of time and cut off the ages. Are you trying to stop me too? In the dark jade, the voice was calm, without any ripples. It was so calm that it chilled people's hearts. It was like a fairy phoenix above the 9 heavens, looking down at the ants who were provoking her. Hand over, fellow Taoist Mon. The Emperor Tiankai spoke again. In front of this emperor, you have no right to bargain. The indifferent voice of the master of Yahoo was so cold that it shook the star field. Her spiritual thoughts were like Wang Yang's. In one breath, her spiritual consciousness swept across all the stars, releasing her majesty without reservation. In just a moment, there were countless the living beings were suddenly crushed into a cloud of blood mist by this coercion. Just the natural release of power caused a world-destroying scene. Stars and voids were all dyed blood red. It was as if like blood raining from the sky. It is poignant and beautiful. You dare! A loud shout came. 2 more great emperors walked out. A man in a battle suit, with endless anger and endless killing intent, stepped into the void, making every living thing tremble. The body was shaken. It collapsed completely. Just like a god coming to the world, the murderous intention almost condensed into substance, rolled out and turned into a piece of Wang Yang, trying to completely submerge the earth and immortal world. But this murderous intention has not yet touched Yahoo. Dissolved and invisible. Too weak. The voice in Yahoo is faint, with a coldness that goes deep into the bone marrow, as if it can freeze a person's soul and make people shudder. Is it? I've long wanted to meet Emperor Ming, who is second on the emperor list. The Emperor Tiankai spoke. He strode forward, his eyes looking straight ahead. Wherever he stepped, the sky was shattered, and chaos and mist surged, turning into nothingness. In the earth immortal world, many people's expressions changed, and they were covered in turtles. He burst into tears, coughed up blood, and retreated quickly. Many people fell directly from the sky. This was the aura of the great emperor. His eyes flashed across the void, like thunder coming into the world, lightning intertwined, and the scene was terrifying, making the whole world they are all shaking. Ruyuaja, as if a heavenly sword appeared in the world, reaching through the sky and the earth, penetrating the sky, and trying to cut through everything. Emperor Tiankai stepped forward with the heavenly sword, facing the front, and with every step he took, the entire Zixuan realm seemed to be resonating, shaking with frightening force. Second on the emperor list. There was a wave of confusion in the voice of the master of Yahoo for the first time. What does this mean? Although his reputation is not small in the earthly immortal world, no one should have heard of it in the Zixuan world. Could it be that those in the lower world before Tianxiao, someone has spread his reputation? This is reasonable. But she really can't figure out the so-called second on the emperor list. Since she can't figure it out, she simply doesn't think about it, and waits until she rules the entire Zixuan realm. Then all the secrets will be hidden from her. The news about the emperor list will naturally be understood. Kill. The Emperor Tiankai took another step forward, held the heavenly saber in his hand, and slashed straight forward, very decisively, without any hesitation. Clang. This sword. It shines brightly in the sky, and the brilliance is like the Milky Way pouring down. The light of the brilliant sword moves the universe. All the creatures present are frightened. Their bodies are like fallen leaves in the wind. The chill hits, the whole body convulses, and they tremble uncontrollably. Boom! The sword was like a rainbow, falling with a beam of light like the Milky Way, and the sound shook the sky and the earth, as if it had cut off history and cut off time. It was just one sword, and the Emperor Tiankai had already used all his strength and did not hold back at all. He understood, this is a powerful enemy in front of him, perhaps the only one he has ever seen in his life. If he still has the temptation to test, then the fate of Emperor Mon will be his fate. Is that all? The ink-colored jade is floating in the void, densely covered with divine chains of order, clanking, and blooming with billions of divine radiances, like a black sun. The brilliance shines for 9 days. When? Wow! Zheng. The moment the voice fell, 3 more great emperors from the Zixuan realm chose to take action. Together with the great emperor Tiankai, there were 4 great emperors in total. From all 4 directions, they all used their strongest magical powers to attack Black Jade. 4 imperial weapons flew across the sky, pressing across the sky. The terrifying power stirred up in all directions, and the place was completely blurred. It was hazy and chaotic, as if it was the beginning of the world. Nothing could be seen and nothing could be seen clearly. A sword, a scroll, an ancient pagoda, and the 4 imperial soldiers all showed their peerless sharpness and unparalleled power. Emperor Huang's majesty overwhelmed the sky and covered the 9 states. Sharp and unmatched. This scene made countless people change their minds. Emperor Hades was too trusting and wanted to challenge the entire world on his own. This approach was too crazy. Even if the earthly immortal realm surpasses the purple Xian realm by a lot, it cannot be so overwhelming. To know. Rabbits will bite when they are anxious. What's more, the digital emperors. Pushing them into a desperate situation will only hurt both the underworld and the Zixuan realm. Interesting. In the dark jade, the voice was cold and still without any emotion. A gaze penetrated the void. No movement was seen. Behind the jade, a black world opened in the void. At first, the world did not. It was huge, only 1,000 feet in diameter. But not long after, this world expanded crazily, swallowing up the sky and the earth, covering the entire universe, boundless. There was no light in the world, as if everything had returned to the source, and as if everything had already destruction. It is before rebirth, but it is after destruction. Like a reincarnation, it is constantly reborn, and then destroyed. This is the breath of reincarnation. Deep in the black world, there is a rumbling sound, no one you can see clearly what is there. It seems like there is a millstone, turning with difficulty, pulling all the heavens and all the worlds. It wants to pull all living beings to go to rebirth. This is far in the sky. Emperor Bilogo's turbid eyes bloomed with a ray of light. He stared at the dark world and his old body began to shake. He murmured, "This is the second one on the imperial arms list, reincarnation. Is it possible that Emperor Hades also sacrificed blood to a world? Using a world to cultivate an imperial weapon is such a big gesture and such a cruel thought. No wonder he ranks second on the imperial soldier list."